Joe, how are you, bro?
I'm good, man. I loved every second of sticking it up Bill's rear end. Let's be honest about this, okay? You know this. And all these people that are, oh, no, my draft position with 10th now and all this garbage, okay? Did you really want to see Bill Belichick end his Patriot career beating the Jets again and having, I'm telling you, they would have been carrying him off the field on his shoulders. And he had that look of indigestion the whole day. Obviously, the weather was, making it worse for him. And you know that it sticks in his craw that I walk away from this franchise now, and my final game is losing to the hated Jets and ending the 15-game winning streak.
No question.
Please.
The idea,
give me a break. You know what I mean, bro?
The idea that Bill is happy for the next head coach because he gave him the 3rd overall pick is crap. He wanted to win.
I mean, do you fully believe that he's out, that he's gone? Because I think it's going to be a trade. They're not going to fire Bill Belichick. They just signed him to a 3-year extension. So they're not giving him $30 million to walk out the door and pay him for doing nothing or go take a job someplace else. It's going to be a trade. So the question is, who are the actual partners, right? Who could potentially do this and would want to? San Diego is who we heard originally. Maybe Atlanta. I think Atlanta's interested in
Washington. Atlanta, yeah.
Right.
To me, it's the Commanders. They got the 2nd pick in the draft, and I really maybe Atlanta. Atlanta does make some sense because it's a terrible division.
Yeah,
I think Bill's out of the AFC. I think if he's leaving the AFC, I think it's more difficult to win in the AFC than the NFC. I think Atlanta is a good possibility, but here's the thing. If he goes to Washington, he's got the 2nd pick in the draft to draft a quarterback.
Yeah. He's also following Vince Lombardi full circle.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. Hopefully he won't have the same ending that Vince had in Washington.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately,
Vince didn't end well.
Vince passed away, unfortunately, a few years in. I don't know if you felt this way, and I never have this feeling.
Yeah.
I was actually confident the whole day.
I was never confident. And when Ashton Davis, and let me give Ashton Davis some credit because he's really turned into a pretty good player as much as I killed him.
Right.
But whatever. When he he fumbled because he's trying to lateral at the source guard.
What was that about?
What are you doing?
In the snow.
In the snow, right. What are you doing? Thank God that Michael Carter made the play. He tipped the ball to Adams, who, by the way, Adams made the play of the game when he broke up that pass in the end zone to Gesicki.
Yep.
I mean, that was a tremendous play. I thought it was a touchdown. You know what I mean? Early in the first half.
He did. It was a great play, yep.
And so Adams turned into a really good player for them. He made some big plays at that big pick against the Eagles and all of that. So, but I mean, when Davis fumbled there, I mean, I'm like, don't tell me this is how they're going to blow the game. That Bailey Zappi is going to hit one stinking play, probably beat DJ Reed, who got beat again like a drum on that one play down the sideline. I think it was to Myers, whoever it was. But whatever. But it didn't happen. They got the pick, and then Breece Hall. And let me just say this. And Tiki, you're a running back. You know better than anybody. This guy has a chance to be like the best running back in football if he's not there already. If he was on a real good team with a quarterback, and you look at the numbers he did, without a quarterback and with a lousy offensive line. I mean, you got to be kidding me. And I've come to this conclusion too. All right. The reason that they have devalued the running back position, okay, it took me, and now maybe I'm naive and I should have thought about this already, is because they don't want to pay them. Isn't that really what it comes down to? Let's devalue the position so we don't have to pay them close to what we have to pay quarterbacks.
Well,
am I making any sense?
Well, they're never going to make what quarterbacks are going to make.
Right, but they still might get $30 million if they're franchised, 25 or 30.
But here's the thing: you can't do that. Like, think about if you had to pay your running back what Tyreek Hill is making, which is $30 million a year.
Right. Okay.
You couldn't field a team. It'd be too much.
All right.
It'd be too much cap number spent. And look, I believe that the running back position is not actually devalued. I think they just believe they can get it done with multiple guys, and therefore you don't have to pay one.
Right.
But when you have your guy, like Christian McCaffrey or even Saquon for those couple of years, Derrick Henry, and, in this case with Breece Hall, You realize you don't need 3 guys. You can get it done with 1. And it was no more evident than Breece Hall carrying the ball 37 times. I didn't realize it until Evan told me today. 37 totes, and he scored a touchdown, a 50-yarder on like the 34th one. So, like, when you have that guy who can catch the ball as well, you don't need to have 3 running backs. You can afford to pay him. The problem is nobody wants to actually do it because they think they can get away with doing it with multiple guys.
Right. Right. You know, it's interesting. I'll throw an interesting stat at you. I don't want to get too crazy with it, but in the 2 years he's been here, when he scores a touchdown, the Jets are 11-2 in the last 2 years. So, I mean, think about that. That means they're 3-18 when he doesn't.
Yeah.
And he had 9 touchdowns this year. I mean, how many did the Jets score total?
I know.
They had more than half their touchdowns, right?
No, you're right. I by the way, on the running back thing, I think running backs and starting pitchers in baseball are very similar. How many really good starting pitchers are there in Major League Baseball?
No, there's not a lot.
There's none. There's it's Garrett Cole.
Right? Oh, we got Sean Mania now. You know what? By the way, Ev, when I heard Sean Mania, I thought Omar was coming back. I'm like, what happened? They got rid of Stearns already?
That's funny.
That's funny.
I think that.
But you're right, Evan.
Look, think about how many great running backs right now, not in the past, like in this moment, are there in the NFL? It's Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
And what else?
Yeah.
It's
and
like
Breece is right. Let me tell you, Breece is right there.
Breece
He's not far away.
Breece is emerging as
He's
one of those
top
guys.
5 in the league. He's definitely top 5 in the league.
No.
And you know what I like about Breece? He wants to be the best. He says it. He says, "I want to be in the Pro Bowl next year."
Well, one of the biggest takeaways after this win, and I enjoyed it too. About 5 minutes after it was over, I was over it, and I remembered this season sucks. We're not going anywhere, but I did enjoy it at the time. But after the game, Garrett Wilson comes out and says, "This is the worst year of my career." And really called out everybody. Called out the coaching staff. Called out everybody for how awful this season was. And even threw in, doesn't even matter who the quarterback is, we need to be better.
Yep.
And I thought that was great from a guy who actually statistically had a damn good year. It's the second most receptions in the history of the franchise with no quarterback. So in one breath, you got Garrett Wilson saying this is the worst year ever, and then Robert Saleh in his post-game press conference is listing off the resume of what they accomplished this year as if they accomplished anything this year.
Look, Robert Saleh has to understand, man. He got a major mulligan, okay? And there is no gray area next year. You have to win. 7-10 ain't cutting it anymore. What is his record? 18-33 or whatever it is, 19-30, whatever the record is in his tenure here. It's 18-33. You got to win next year, and even you got to win whether Aaron Rodgers is playing 15 games or whether Aaron Rodgers is playing 5 games. They got to be in the playoffs next year. There is no gray area, or everybody is gone. It's not even they're all gone.
I don't think there's any doubt. Now, looking towards next year, one of the guys that they got to figure out to keep is Bryce Huff.
Bryce Huff. Yeah.
He had 2 more sacks. He had 10 for the year. The Jets, we don't exactly have a laundry list of 10-sack guys in the history of this franchise. Pass rushers, they don't exactly grow on trees for this team. How important is it for you that they take care of Bryce Huff and keep him?
He's already said he's not giving the Jets any discount.
Nor should he.
Let me ask you this. What is the franchise tag for pass rushers? That's a big number, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big number because you got to think of the guys who are making the top end.
Right.
It's 30-something million.
So they can't franchise him. That's just too much money to franchise.
Yeah, not for the guy who's not your number 1 paid defensive lineman.
Right.
I think the argument is that he was a part-time player for part of this year. Right? You know what I mean? He had to earn those every down snaps. Now, once he earned them, he balled.
And by the way, he still isn't he still isn't that. Like, he's still on the field now half the time as compared to 20% of the time.
Well, he's a pass rush. I mean, that's really what he is. I mean, that's his game.
Yeah, but you can't overpay him. That's the challenge.
So is that your way of saying he's gone?
Likely.
Right. Yeah.
Because somebody's going to view him as their guy.
To say it. I think that's why. Look, I think that's why they drafted McDonald. Now, to me, they should have drafted Smith or Digba. I mean, don't get me started on that, okay? That's who they should have drafted, and they wouldn't have to worry about a wide receiver now. I understand they got hosed with Broderick Jones. I get sick every time I see him with Pittsburgh. I don't think he missed a down all year for the Steelers. And, of course, if Bill doesn't make that, another reason to hate Bill, because he made that trade last year with Pittsburgh because he knew the Jets were taking Jones. But anyway, they should have taken Smith to Digba. They did not do that. They took McDonald, and I think they took him to replace Huff, I think.
Yeah. No, you're right. And they've drafted defensive linemen. By the way, that's a Robert Saleh, a San Francisco 49ers philosophy. That's what the 49ers did for a bunch of years. and it ended up setting them up for where they are, the success that they have right now. But as much as I like Bryce Hoff, I think someone's going to value him more than what the Jets can pay.
I think you're right. I think he's gone, unfortunately.
Right.
That's disappointing. A 10-sack year, they don't grow on trees with the Jets.
No.
That's for sure.
Nope.
Priority number one for this offseason is what?
Beside, an offensive lineman or a wide receiver? Beside those two?
Yeah.
To me, it's a backup quarterback. I cannot emphasize enough how they need a legitimate veteran backup. And, look, he gets hurt a lot, but you got to love Tyrod Taylor. I mean, I'm watching this guy yesterday. He throws a tremendous deep ball. The guy can run. I mean, that to me, it's either him, Jacoby Brissett, Minshew, although Minshew, man, I mean, they should have won that game. He missed that fourth down pass. He missed Goodwin or whoever. I know Goodwin probably still
he should have made it, too. It's like a half and half. It's on both of them.
It was on both of them. Right. So that, to me, is it. Look, they need an offensive. They need a tackle, probably a couple guys on the offensive line. They need another wide receiver. No doubt about that. And they need a legitimate veteran backup quarterback.
Okay.
I don't think there's any question.
All right, Joe, so help us decipher the BS comments of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So Aaron Rodgers basically says we need to come in, we need to have singular focus, we need to be intentional with everything that we're doing. We need to get rid of the BS that has nothing to do with winning football. And we were trying to figure out, what is the BS?
Yeah, what is that?
What is it? Because the only thing we can think of is the stuff that he puts out in the world on McAfee's show. Mm-hmm. I know that the one thing was that Zach Wilson doesn't want to play. Sean brought this up earlier. And he's right. Sean, it got leaked. Zach doesn't want to play, and then it caused this uproar. Aaron spoke out about the leaks in the building. But what is he talking about? What's the BS around this Jets franchise that people aren't focused on? I know that the talent hasn't been there offensively, but I don't think it's BS, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the locker room. I don't know what he's talking about. You're 100% right, though. He goes on and I didn't realize that he's making like $1 million to go on McAfee once a week.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
He's getting paid $1 million to go on there.
Not bad.
No, it's great, but look, I don't know what he's talking about, Teak. All I can say is this guy better be healthy next year, and he better get my team to the freaking playoffs. I mean, I seriously, because I mean that's right now I'm very down on him. I really am. Because he's basically running the franchise and he's done nothing for the New York Jets.
Look, next year's make or break for everybody, including him. And we're going to be quick to turn on him because we've waited a long time. I mean, think about how long it's going to be until next September. Right. And we saw the guy play 4 snaps. Yeah. That's all we've gotten from this guy.
By the way, 10 years from now, do we get Jordan Love too? Is he coming? What a disaster.
This season was a disaster. Like Robert Saleh could tell me, well, we won 3 out of 5. We closed strong. This 7-10 season, considering the expectations we had, even after Aaron got hurt. Because after they won that Buffalo game, you're on with us. I'm thinking the same thing. Yeah, why can't they win the division? And meanwhile, they never had a shot the last 4 weeks.
Well, the games they lost, the first Patriot loss, these are the games to me. The first Patriot loss, they don't show up against the Chargers. I didn't get that. I understand they got that punt return in the beginning of the game and all that, but they stunk in that game. They lost. They should have beat the Raiders and the Falcons. Right. I hate to say this. Not that he played great, but if Trevor Siemian started the Falcon game, they probably would have won.
By the way, Joe, I completely agree with that. I was saying this to Tiki. Mm-hmm. I thought Trevor Siemian yesterday actually played reasonably well.
Yeah, it was tough conditions.
There were how many drops?
He didn't turn the ball over. And he recovered that one fumble. Immediately they put when Tipman goes out, the guy snaps it over his head. And he saved that play there. There was another high snap he made a nice play on, too.
Multiple bad snaps, you're right. He's 8 for 20, should have been 13 for 20 because of the drops. Right. And considering it was a driving rainstorm, he was pretty good. And you're right. If he's starting over Tim Boyle against the Miami Dolphins, I don't know. Maybe things are different.
I don't know about the Dolphin game. I don't know if they would have beat the Dolphins. I'll tell you this. I'll say this. He probably would have been able to get the Hail Mary in a place where it wouldn't have been returned for a touchdown.
Right.
Okay, I'll say that. But I clearly think if he started the Atlanta game, Atlanta stinks. I mean, you watched them yesterday, Teak. I know you were down there. That game was close for a while.
Yep.
And then the Saints just blew their doors off.
Look,
when
Joe,
it
was only close because they have a kid, Alante Taylor, who's a rookie cornerback who completely blew a coverage on the first play of the game, set up their first touchdown, and then on the other touchdown, the Bijan Robinson touchdown, he just didn't get out. He forgot to cover the flat, and Bijan Robinson goes 77 yards. That was basically the only offense the Atlanta Falcons had.
Right.
And then they got blown out in the second half, including the last second touchdown, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, that's right. We'll get to that. Do you agree? Because Aaron Rodgers said this today when he met the media, and it's been alluded to a lot, that they need another big-time playmaking wide receiver.
Oh, there's no question about it.
I agree with that.
There's no question about
but
that.
Are you willing? Because here's what scares me.
I'm not trading my number one pick for Devontae Adams. They're going to ask me.
Well, yeah, because I agree they could use that. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
But building an offensive line is a necessity and is a bigger priority.
But hold on. Devontae Adams is 10 years in.
Right.
I mean, Devontae Adams is not young. It's not like he's.
Yeah. Well, I'm not trading my first-round pick for him. I agree with Joe.
I agree. I'm just saying, I don't think you should even be contemplating Devontae Adams. I know that he has a rapport with Aaron Rodgers, and it feels like it would be, it would feel awesome.
He's still a hell of a player.
Of course he is, but he's 10 years in.
Mike Evans, I'd rather get Evans, who's a free agent.
But Evans is also 10 years in. So
he is, but I
just think there's a bunch of young kids in the draft. Now,
let me ask you a question. I want to ask you this,
with those young guys, but I don't think you trade a first-round pick for a guy who's 10 years in.
Okay, so let me ask you, T. So after Marvin Harrison, who is the next receiver? This guy Neighbors? Is that the name I'm hearing? Is that the next guy?
Oh yeah, Malik Neighbors, who's from LSU. I have the list.
Right.
I have the list here. So it's Marvin Harrison Jr. You were right. He's number one, and he's going to be amazing.
Jets ain't getting him.
No. I mean, he might go in top 5 or so.
Hey, the Bears might take him. The Bears might not trade out and take him if they're not getting a quarterback. I think they keep him.
Look, Joe, they're not firing their head coach.
No.
So if they're not, at least they haven't yet. So if they're not firing their head coach, that means they might, keep their quarterback also, which if you want to put another talent around him, go get Marvin Harrison. But we'll see. Malik Neighbors, this kid Rome Dunes from Washington, he's playing.
We'll see him tonight.
We'll see him tonight.
We'll see him tonight.
With Michael Penix. Right. And then it's a couple of guys you probably Keon Coleman. He was at Florida State.
Right. Okay.
I didn't really watch him.
I remember the name. I saw him a couple times, but I didn't really
But
here's
here's the thing, Joe. It's a deep wide receiver draft. It's like really deep. You can go down, 10 of them, and they're all 6'2", 6'4", 6'3". They profile about the same, so you can get the wide receiver. It's the lineman you need to worry about.
Well, let me ask you this.
That's what I would be worried about.
All right, let's break the draft down here. The Jets are picking 10th. How many teams do you think are taking a quarterback, before the Jets pick? How many teams do you think that's going to be?
I would say 3.
That would be my guess, Tom.
I would say 3.
Yep.
So you look at Washington
definitely,
New England, and Atlanta.
Atlanta's 10.
We're 10. The Jets are 10.
They're 8.
Yeah, Atlanta actually jumped the Jets based on yesterday, but I think Chicago's taking a quarterback.
Do you really?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Boy, I tell you, I like
really
Fields.
don't know.
Fields is starting to play, bro. I don't know if I would do that. They played good football. Look, I know they lost to Green Bay yesterday, but they played good football down the stretch.
And apparently
Fields played well.
His team likes him, even though he doesn't show up for the production meetings. His team likes him.
You don't show up for the production meetings?
Right. Yeah, he doesn't come to the production
He didn't come to your production meeting?
That's funny. And so I'm unsure about Chicago. Washington definitely is.
No doubt.
New England 100% is.
Yep.
I mean, Tennessee might have to.
Well, they got Levis though, don't they like him?
But,
I mean,
I don't know. We called him a couple times. I'll leave it in. I don't know. It's a maybe.
Okay.
And Atlanta definitely is. So there's 3 that are definite, and maybe another one. So there's probably 4 teams that could take quarterbacks.
But I'll tell you one thing the Jets also have to consider is trading back, especially since we don't have a second-round pick after the Aaron Rodgers trade.
Yeah.
So collecting more draft capital when they got a lot of holes to fill may not be the worst idea ever.
Could do that.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, it's interesting. We had a long time to talk about the draft, but the Jets have holes.
Yep.
And I'm not going to say they're easy fixes. They also have free agency.
Yep.
That's the other side. So we should stop getting over enamored with the draft and realize that you might have to overpay for some of these spots in free agency. And I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because you talked earlier, Joe, about Robert Saleh. This is obviously the hot seat season because it's his 4th year.
Yeah, this is it.
Right? But it's also for Joe Douglas. Joe
no
Douglas
question.
also has to be in that situation.
They're all on the hot seat.
So you might have to overspend in free agency.
I think this is an all-in
right.
This is an all-in off season,
It's
Joe.
an all-in
They're going
off-season.
all in to win next year.
They
They
have to.
better.
This is
They
not
have to.
the Mets.
Let me just tell you this. Not the Mets. Please. Let me just say, this means nothing, but I'm going to throw this at you. So, here's the guys. Tom Landry, Chuck Noll, Belichick in Cleveland, Weeb Eubank. First 3 seasons as head coaches all had losing records. Now, does that mean anything? Look, I don't see where Salah's going to be Tom Landry or Chuck Noll. Okay, I don't see that. But it's something to think about.
Well, it's also a reminder that in these days, if you have 3 losing seasons in a row, you're fired.
You're fired.
Whether
That's
you're
right.
Arthur
You're not
Smith,
making it.
You're
That's
not.
And by the way, Joe, but he's not. He's had
Right.
3 in a row, and he's not
Right,
fired.
because of the special circumstances known
Because
as
of
Aaron
Rodgers. Really,
Rodgers.
it's because of Rodgers. I mean,
But
there's really
it doesn't
no other
matter the reason. It's a blessing. So take
Right.
advantage of it.
Well,
all right?
He
Seriously.
better. He better.
I think that's it. He better next year. Should be very, very interesting.
He's also. It's also not a like a chaos. Like I know in Atlanta, it was chaos in the building. Right? It was just. It was dysfunction.
I'll tell you what.
That's not the case. That's not the case over One Jets Drive.
I'll say this for Salah. I was very pleasantly surprised that yesterday they really were out there to get this streak over with. And I didn't think that. But watching them play, everybody played. They were ready to play. I mean, look, you say whatever you want. I mean, the defense was pretty dominant yesterday. I mean, they couldn't do anything. They sacked Zappy stinks. But they could, they sacked him 7 times. I understand the weather was an issue and all of that, but they were certainly ready to play that game, and they were looking to end that streak. So I got to give Sal, because I didn't think he'd make that a priority, but it seemed like it was. So I got to give him credit for that.
And they did get it, and they won 3 out of their last 5, if there's anything to take out of that.
Yeah,
Joe,
not much.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you all year.
Are you now I can't see you, so you're still not shaving because of the Pete Alonso disaster?
I have not shaven. It's getting redder and redder, and it's growing more and more, but I remain loyal
I'm gonna go
to
get
the cause.
I'm gonna go get the ruler here in a second.
Yeah.
You're going to start measuring the
Yeah,
beard?
we got to
Pete?
start.
Is that the game plan?
Start measuring the beard.
I'm staying loyal to my guy. Pete gets the
Hey,
contract
look,
he
bro,
deserves.
you know how I feel about Pete. Look, if you could give $325 million to Yamamoto, you could give it to Pete.
You're damn
Let's
right.
go.
And you know what? As disappointing as this offseason has been.
Is that what it's been?
It's been very disappointing. I think that's the right word.
We thought the Wilpon. Remember, I just got to tell you, guys, and I love you, bro. You know that. I love you. I love you more than anything. Right there, right now. I could just see you when Cohen came in. Stevie, all his beautiful money. All of a sudden, the Wilpon showed up again.
I don't fully agree with you, but I understand. It's been a very
David
disappointing
Stern.
offseason.
It's David Stern.
David
Locking
Stern.
down-
What a
locking
disgrace
down
he
the
is.
pocketbook.
But would you take the publicity stunt of trying to make us feel better by extending Pete Alonso? Because I would.
Of
If
course.
that's the big move this
course.
offseason, is extending Pete Alonso so I could get this freaking beard off my face. But
Bro.
more importantly, we could have our guy here for the next decade. Get it done.
Just remember one thing, and this scares me. This is the Mets have a history of this, bro. Whether it's Nolan Ryan, Tom Seaver, Darryl Strawberry, Daniel Murphy, Ray Knight. We can go right
Zach
on down the
Wheeler.
line. David Cohn, right?
Yes.
Zach Wheeler. Oh my God! Oh, I just got another hemorrhoid. Right? Exactly. So remember, this is very Met-like. They better sign this guy. And I'll tell you this too. Here's the worst thing about Pete. Can't you see him winding up in the Bronx?
Don't even put that in the act.
Oh, but I think about this all the time, bro.
Yeah,
I never even thought about that.
I'm not worried
They
about
need a
it.
first baseman. You
I
know,
know,
Whichco's
but
not
can
going to
you
be around too
imagine?
much longer. Anthony Rizzo, I can tell you that.
But they are paying him what, 16? I mean, it's
Yeah, but he's gone at the end of the year. To
I
Joe's
know,
point,
but
he's a
still.
free agent. That would be a nightmare.
That would be
the truth
a
is,
nightmare.
Him not being on the Mets is a nightmare. Whether
Nightmare.
it's the Cubs, name
Doesn't
the
matter
freaking
what
team.
bro,
He's got to be on the team.
They have to re-sign this guy, and if they don't, I mean, that's what a hosing to the fans. That's all I can say.
Indeed.
A hosing.
Indeed. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate it, man.
All right,
Appreciate you,
guys,
Joe.
take care.
The
Be
great
good.
Joe Benigno.